Welcome everybody. My name is Megan. I am currently a field biologist for the Atlas 3 project. Thanks everyone for joining us for tonight's Sappy Hour. I'm sure a lot of you have been here before, but if anyone's new, a Sappy Hour, it's kind of like a play on words between happy hour and our mascot, which you've probably seen, Sammy the Sapsucker. And this period just gives us a chance to discuss certain topics with a presentation, and then also allows us time for questions, either about the topic or just general questions you might have about atlasing and the atlas. So as usual, this meeting is being recorded. We'll post it on our Atlas YouTube channel after the fact. The presentation should take about 20 to 30 minutes, followed by plenty of time for any questions you may have that we'll kind of go through after the presentation. And this is also being streamed on Facebook, in case anyone's interested. Anyone you know, maybe they prefer Facebook. Um, for any questions you have, we've got a little Q&A at the bottom of the screen, if you can see that right beside the chat function. You can ask any questions throughout the presentation as they pop in your head, and then we can go through them after the presentation during our Q&A period. If you are joining us from Facebook, you can type your questions into the Facebook comments and we will make sure to get to those as well. Um, yeah, so I think I'll start us off with a land acknowledgement. So I know we're all joining from kind of all over the province, but I am currently living and coming to you from Brockville. This is located on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. This land is part of the land acquired by the unrecorded Crawford Purchase of October 1783, which was negotiated between the Crown and the Mississauga peoples. And this treaty includes the land north of the St. Lawrence River from the Bay of Quinte all the way to the Ottawa River. The Atlas 3 is a province-wide initiative with people kind of joining from all over. So I really do encourage you to take some time to reflect on the many diverse Indigenous communities whose territories you may be currently living on, as well as those you may have birded on while volunteering for the Atlas, and even in your own free time. There are a lot of really good resources out there if you were not quite sure where to start with that. I really like uh, nativeland.ca. Another good one is Whose Land. If you just Google Whose Land, both of those will allow you to kind of explore the traditional territories of different nations where you live. And with that said, I'll introduce tonight's topic. We're going to be covering data entry, as we've just wrapped up the last peak season for the Atlas. So we're going to go over some of the basics, but we'll also talk about eBird imports as well. If that's something you're a little confused about, or if you've still got stuff sitting in eBird, we'll be covering that today. Um, yeah, and I'll introduce our speakers tonight. I'm sure you have or recognize them, but tonight we will be given a presentation by Mike Burrell, who is the Atlas coordinator, and Kaylin Bumelis, who is the Atlas project manager. And they've been keeping the Atlas running smoothly for all 5 years that we've been going, and we'll also continue to be working on it throughout the period of publication. And I will pass it over to them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Megan. And for those who don't know Megan, Megan was our team lead for our Southern crew this year. And she did a lot of really great work in the field and is now doing a lot of great work in office as well. So thanks very much, Megan, for joining us tonight too. So as Megan has already said, we're going to be chatting about data entry today. Let's see, is this going to show the present? Yes, excellent. Okay. We're talking about data entry as we do at this time almost every year. Now is our chance to give folks the opportunity to learn a little bit more about data entry if they're struggling to get their data in. This year is especially important because it's our final year of the Atlas data collection, which is crazy to me. But here we are at the other side of peak season and entering our data, our peak season data. As you may know, there are three ways to enter data into the Atlas. The first that most people were actually using this past season was through the Nature Counts app. We also have a Nature Counts web portal, and then there are options to import your data through from eBird into Nature Counts. So those are the three ways to enter data. Today, we're just going to be talking about two ways. Both ways are done on your desktop computer or laptop, whatever you choose. So the Nature Counts web portal and the eBird data entry are both done on your computer rather than through the app. So we've done a lot of Sappy hours, which covered entering data through the Nature Counts app. And you can find those on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@onbirdatlas. There's a lot of recordings on there about Nature Counts app, but we're happy to answer any questions that you might have today about the app as well. So essentially for speed of this presentation, we're just covering the two web portals so that we can give people the most opportunities to ask questions at the end there. So if you do have questions about the app, we're still more than happy to answer them. All right, so here's our outline for this evening. The first thing that we're going to chat about is data entry, the data entry deadline, the web data entry, eBird import, frequently asked questions. Then we're going to have your questions, those that were not answered by the frequently asked questions. And then lastly, some announcements. So we'll start with the data entry deadline. This one for peak season data or data that was, collected even before peak season. Our data entry deadline is August 30th, right? So peak season ended on July 11th or July 10th. And so if you have data up until July 10th that you have not submitted yet, the deadline for that is August 30th. That includes digital point counts. So if you have recordings from digital point counts that you have not yet submitted, the deadline for those, as well as the Zoom logs associated with them, is going to be August 30th. If you've collected data after July 10th, after the end of peak season, the deadline for that is not going to be until the end of the year. So just a reminder to everyone, the Atlas data collection does go all the way to the end of 2025, but obviously a lot fewer species are going to be in their safe dates after the peak season. So there's not as many, species that you can record at this point. But the data entry for that will be the end of December. And then, data entry for peak season or before that is August 30th. So on to web data entry. Just before I go into a live demo, what I want to talk about is what is required to for a checklist for the Atlas. So what are the requirements? So you need the date, you need the time, and duration. Okay, so we want to know how long you were out atlasing for that specific checklist. So each time that you went out atlasing, how long were you out there? It says unless incidental. So what does that mean? If atlasing was not your primary purpose, so say I'm just driving down the highway and I see a pair of red-tailed hawks, there's no time duration associated with that sighting. I'm just going to say, oh, two red-tailed hawks, June 6th at 10 a.m. or something like that at this location. That brings me to my next point, which is location. We need to know where you were. We need to know what square you were in. The finer the geographic location, the better off you are or we are in terms of the data. So you can submit things at a square level, but it gives us more information if you can say, these red-tailed hawks were actually at this specific location. And it is required that you stay within a single Atlas square. So we are trying to figure out, is a particular bird species breeding in a particular square? If you cross a square boundary while you're walking around and recording birds, then we're not actually sure where you observed that particular species. So you do need to stay within a single Atlas square for each of your checklists. All right, and then situation dependent distance. So if you're doing a traveling checklist, if you're biking, if you're walking, while you're recording the birds that you're seeing and hearing, then it's helpful to know the distance that you traveled, as well as species details for significant species. So that could be, species of interest, a colonial species, a rare species, species at risk, etc. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of a demo here. I'm going to walk you through what it takes to submit a checklist to the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas. I should mention, I meant to say this earlier, but I'm going to be showing you guys how to submit a checklist, a general atlasing checklist, as opposed to a point count. We do have a lot of videos on how to submit point counts. And again, it's just for, the speed of us, presenting this information so that we can get to folks' questions at the very end. So from the main Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas website, which is birdsontario.org, so you can see up here, birds with an S, ontario.org. There's two ways to get to nature. Well, there's lots of ways to get to nature counts, but two ways that I'm going to show you to get to nature counts. The first one is just this login button in the top left. This will open a new window that's in nature counts. I'm already logged in. I might just log myself out here. So I'll try that again. Press login. It'll take you to the login page if you're not already logged in. And this will sign you in. Take a look in this top left corner to make sure it says Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas. That's where we want to log into. The reason that I say that is that Nature Counts is where a lot of different projects store their data. Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas is one of them. But, if you're participating in the Nature Survey, the Loon Survey, Marsh Monitoring, you might have a separate Nature Counts portal for those. So this login button should take you directly to Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas, but just double check to make sure. The second way to get there is this big old Nature Counts button that says data entry. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It'll give you an error. Okay, I've had someone raise this to me before. Why is this giving me an error? I've literally just clicked to submit my data. I've already done something wrong. It's actually just telling you that you can't submit data unless you're logged in. So, in Nature Counts is trying to figure out, okay, how do we proceed with submitting data when I don't know who you are? That's really what that error is giving you. So you haven't done anything wrong. It's just letting you know you've got to log in if you want to get into this data entry. So let's log in here. If I can put my password in. All right, we're logged in. So this will take you to the submit page. Whereas if you just press the login button, it won't take you to the submit page. It takes you to the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas page. So if you've clicked login and you're not sure where to go now that you're logged in, there's the submit button. So I'll click on that. And then we just go to submit data. That'll take us to the same spot that we were at by pressing that Nature Counts button in the first place. Okay, so there's a map here. It says find square. You can select a square from your personal list, or you can import from eBird, which is what Mike will talk about very shortly. You can either zoom in to find your square if you're not actually sure what the square number is. You can always zoom in on it. I'm in Hamilton, so if I wanted to find the one where I live in, then I could just zoom in to a certain extent. If you want to find the square based on, say you have a lat long that you used when you were out atlasing, say you had a GPS unit or another way to figure out where you were, you could put the latitude and longitude in, or the UTM if that's your preferred method. Or you could put in the square number. I'm going to put the square number in just to show you, 17TPH04. That's my square. So it'll zoom you into the square that you're looking to add data to. You can either pick a single location, so you can click on the map and say, I submitted a list right here. You can use the lat long to select your where you want to add that location. You can draw a transect, so you can draw like I went all along this Lakeshore Road. And then if you double click, then that's your that's your track. I'll clear that. You can also change this to satellite view to try to figure out, oh yeah, I was actually, stopping drawing there. I was in James Allen Provincial Park, but it was actually kind of at this end of the parking lot or something like that. Oh, I've already done that into the parking lot. Clearly, this is muscle memory here. So this end of the parking lot this time, this northwest end of the parking lot, I'll just put my point there. As I scroll down, it has the date. So we have June 2025. I'll just say it was June 6th. The start time is 24 hours, just FYI. So if we start, use the arrows. If you're going to try to change this from, it's just 1, 0, but make sure you highlight everything or put your cursor at the very end and make sure you backspace a whole lot. Some people try to type a new number in there and it ends up as like 6004, for example, 6004, when they really mean 604. Or you could use, again, the arrows. And then you have to have your duration unless it's incidental, as we said. If atlasing was not your primary purpose, I'm going to uncheck that and just do 10 minutes. And then it needs to be it doesn't need to be a complete checklist, but a complete checklist is, reporting every bird that you were able to identify. Most should be a complete checklist, but you can press no if it was not. So if you went out and you didn't record the robins or the more common bird species, you're just recording new birds, then you would say no, it was not a complete checklist. Continue. Okie dokie. What happened here? Of course, we're having a little bit of a fuss. So we're just going to go over here. What we want to do is add individual bird species or species to our list. So you can either search for a species or you can scroll through this list, which is in taxonomic order. If you don't know your taxonomic order, that's totally okay. You can start searching for those species and it will appear here for you. So if I saw a wood duck, one wood duck, I would add the breeding evidence. So when I click in here, breeding evidence doesn't automatically populate like it does in the app, right? The app shows you a nice little list of all your breeding evidences that are possible. So, I think it might still be showing a different window. So I'm going to share my screen. Sorry. I had to go to a new screen here just because the other one wasn't working for me. So I typed in wood duck here. I can type in a new bird that you can. Mute swan is right there, but I'll just type it. Mute swan appears. I'll add one. So then when I go to add my breeding evidence, you see that nothing comes up if I just click here. And so if we go back to birdsontario.org, we can use the tools and resources and go to coding sheets to look up our breeding evidence codes. She's going to take a second. These are all the breeding evidence codes. So I'm going to say it was H. So I'll just put an H here. And then we'll keep going that way, wood duck, butte swan, with other bird species that we observed in our list. Another useful tool here is going to be the safe breeding dates. Sorry, I just completely lapsed on that. Again, we'll take a taxonomic order. So these are the safe breeding dates. So we'll want to make sure that the birds that we're reporting are within their safe dates. One thing that I find useful when I'm looking through these safe dates is to use the Control F function, which is to find something. So Control F. It'll come up with this little box here. And if I start typing mute swan, it's right here. So mute swan is in the safe dates from the 31st of March until the 31st of August. So you see this kind of darker color here. So we'll want to make sure that the birds are within the safe dates. If it's within the peak breeding season, most of them should be within the safe dates, but just make sure. And another note, make sure that you're within the right area. So I'm in the mixed wood plains here, but if you were in a different ecozone, then I would want to find the next instance of mute swan, which is here in the boreal shield. And that would be 14th of April to the 31st of August. So you want to double check your breeding evidence codes and your safe dates as you're going for each of the species that you add here. If you find a bird that is a species of interest, so it has a flag here, either a double dagger, a single dagger, or those two S's, so otherwise kind of species of interest. Say I saw one chimney swift, I'm going to put AE. Say I saw it entering a chimney or something. I would need to add some details to the. Did this backwards. One and AE. All right, adult entering. And then it gives me, okay, yeah, unusual breeding code. Yeah, you want to make sure that it's not a roost, of course. Maybe this wasn't a great example, but we're going to continue on. We're definitely sure it's some sort of breeding site. You can add coordinates. So again, if you go to add details, you want to add details about how you know it's not a roost. I know it's not a roost because, and then we can add our coordinates down here so we can look at our satellite view. I don't actually think there's a good chimney in this square. So this really was a bad example, but say this building had a really nice chimney, I could zoom in and I could just add a pin here to say, this is the chimney that I saw it going into. It will add the lat long. You can add number of individuals if you say you have lots of nests and you want to tell us how many individuals are in each one. Of course, for chimney swift, that wouldn't necessarily make sense, but and then we'll go ahead and close that. And then after that, we can, once we have all of our species in our list, we can go ahead and submit. So if you're not sure which ones you have on your list at this point, you can click show only species with data. Oh, it's gonna, oh, it's because I'm not logged in anymore, or maybe it's not. Let me check this. No, it's having a hard time. Okay, let's see. She's been a little tough right now. Okay, count coordinates. Oh, she's saying it's rare. Okay, now it's being challenging. I might try to press submit. Okay, this is not how it's supposed to look at this exact moment, but what we'll do is just talk about this warning. So if you add a species that's rare, then it might ask you to confirm that you've reported that you want to report that species and that you've added the appropriate documentation, which could be, additional details. So those comments that I mentioned, and also, that exact pinned location. So I've done that, even though I did it on a previous page and now it's kind of yelling at me. I'm going to say, okay, I've already done that. I know that I want to report this species, and then I'll press submit. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing there just because nature counts being a little challenging. Let's see, I'll use the square. Try to go through this again. All right, let's see if it gives me the regular. Nope. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to show the eBird import. I feel like we've gotten the most of this, but when we go into questions, if there's a few questions just about the process, while Mike's presenting, I'll try to get that page back up and running. So, Mike, hopefully you're faring better than me. Oh, you're muted.
I think it might be because you had two windows open at once. And
Yeah.
if you're trying to have two live checklists open at the same time, Nature Counts doesn't like that.
Right. Yeah. The first one timed out. So I was like, maybe it's just being finicky, but I might be able to revive it here. But I think we got the gist of it, unless you feel
Yep.
like I missed anything in that. But
Nope. No, I think that was good. Yeah. I mean it's all fairly straightforward. Right? You need that basic info that Kaylin told you. You need to have a date, time, location, how long you were out. And then it's just a matter of selecting the species and entering the breeding evidence code that you're able to find. Um, and like Kaylin said, we've got lots of videos on our YouTube. So if you need to go back, you can go back and watch this again, or you can go to our YouTube tutorials to see those. So I'm gonna walk through this another way that you can enter data into the Atlas. So Kaylin covered entering data through the web, which is actually the rarest way people submit data these days to the Atlas. Most people are using the app. Um, and then the second most common way is what I'm going to show you, which is to import an eBird checklist. So let me switch over to share my screen. Screen two. Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up there, Megan, if you're seeing a map? Yeah, sweet. Okay. Um, so yes, so this is a familiar screen because Kaylin just walked you through this sort of part of nature counts. If you're going to enter data directly through the website, you're going to start here. You're going to go submit data. You have to select your location. We're just going to skip a lot of the other parts because we're going to import from eBird. So we need to be logged into Nature Counts. We also need to go into eBird to know what checklist we want to import. So I'm going to switch over to my eBird account and I'm going to click Manage My Checklists. And this will take you to a list of all your eBird checklists. So you need to know what checklist you want to import. The easiest way is to do a whole bunch at once. So you select one, do that, and then go to the next checklist, and you import each one. The reason we don't have like one single button to import every single one of your eBird checklists will become apparent very shortly. It's because we want you to check that you're following all the Atlas rules for each checklist. And there's quite likely going to be Atlas specific information we're asking for from each checklist. So let's start with a simple one. So I'm going to choose my July 9th checklist. So I'm going to open that up. And this is my eBird checklist. If you're an eBird user, this will look very familiar. One thing you might not have paid attention to, though, as an eBird user, is the checklist ID. It's listed in a couple places. One is right up here. Can you see my cursor? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it's a number right above the date. It says eBird Canada checklist, and then there's a number that's several digits long. How long are they now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're 9 digits long plus an S at the start. That's the checklist ID number we need. So you can grab it here. You can also grab it from the URL, so the web address of the checklist. It ends with the checklist ID. So let's select it. I'm going to right click with my mouse and click copy because I'm not going to have any hope of remembering that number. And then I'm going to head back to the Atlas. So where I would have hit submit and then clicked submit data, it will take me to this page. And instead of zooming in and finding where I was, I'm going to click this import from eBird button. So I'm going to click that. In this case, I'm already logged in to my Nature Counts account. And there's this little note saying an eBird login, and then that's my eBird username, Mike Burrell 2, is already saved with your Nature Counts profile. To remove or change the eBird login, please click here. So we've already done one thing. If this was your very first time, you'd see something that looked like this, and it would have a spot for your eBird login and your eBird password, and then the eBird checklist ID. What you can enter your eBird login and password each time you import a checklist if you'd like, but to save you the effort, you really only have to enter it once and then click this Save My eBird Login in my profile, and it'll save it in your profile of Nature Counts of the Atlas. So that way you only need to enter it once. So that's why in my case that spot for my eBird login info isn't showing up. It's already saved my profile. So in that case, then I just need the checklist ID. So here's the spot where I'm going to enter it. I'm going to hit right click on my mouse and click paste. And there's that magic 10-digit or 9-digit number with S in front. I'm going to click import from eBird. Going to take a second here. And then just like magic, it has now skipped to the next page of the data submission process. I've got my Atlas Square showing up where I was. The current site name has been brought in from the eBird checklist. It's already selected that it's a traveling count. It's got if I zoom in on the map, it's got my track log there. It's got the date, it's got the time, it's got the duration, number of observers, the distance, whether or not it's a complete checklist, and it'll say, no, you didn't complete Atlas point counts because you can't do Atlas point counts in eBird. So the first step was to enter the checklist ID. Then you import the data into the checklist. And then the really important thing is you need to make sure everything is correct. So it's possible you made a mistake in eBird. It's possible there was a mistake made when it transferred the data over, although that's very unlikely. So just to have a quick check, make sure everything looks correct. In this case, everything's good. So I'm going to hit continue. And then we're going to be taken to the page that Kaylin was last on, which is your species list. So this is where this only show species with data button is really handy. So I'm going to click that. And we're going to see a list of these are the species that came in from the eBird checklist. It's got the count and it's got the breeding evidence already filled in. So again, we want you to have a quick look through, make sure there's nothing crazy has happened in the import process. If there's any flags, this is where they'll be showing up that are specific to the atlas. You could add some comments here if you'd like, but this is a nice simple one. There was no flags, nothing out of the ordinary. So I'm just going to hit submit. Everything looks good. And there we go. It has now imported the checklist to nature counts. Okay, let's try again. So I'm going to click start a new checklist. Perfect. I'm going to hit import from eBird again. And I need to go back to my eBird account and get my next checklist. So I'm going to go back to my checklist view. I want to do my August 19th checklist today. Okay, so here is my checklist ID. Copy that. And I'm going to paste it just like before. Import from eBird. Let's see. Okay, now this time we have got some errors. The coordinates of your location or your track fall outside the atlas square. This list may not be suitable for the atlas. Please correct the location or delete the checklist. So in this case, unfortunately, I was not paying attention and I started the checklist in one atlas square and I continued into the next square. So unless you are able to remember exactly which birds you had in which in which atlas square, this is not a suitable checklist to import into the atlas. So you can just close this and start again. If you did know where you had which species, which birds, then you could edit the track right here using the start drawing option. You can edit the track, and you can take birds off that were outside of this particular square and then enter a second checklist that you'd have to enter sort of the old-fashioned way, the way Kaylin was showing you for the stuff that was in the other square. But I have no idea what stuff was in which square. So in this case, we're just going to start over. So let's, what did I want to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to show you, before I start another checklist, I'm going to close this screen and I'm going to go over and show you a setting within your profile. So when you hover over your name, there's an option to go to your profile. This is where you can edit some settings related to your eBird sharing. So under profile, that's where I am. If you scroll down, there's a section called eBird exports. It'll show you you've got your eBird login name saved and a password saved. There's an option here, automatically push your nature counts data to eBird after entry. You can choose yes or no. It's totally up to you. The really nice thing is if you have it set to yes, then any changes you make to your checklist on the Atlas website will automatically get sent over to eBird. So if you add more details in your nature counts version of the checklist, it'll update those details in your eBird checklist. If you forgot to enter something in your eBird checklist and then you remembered when you're on nature counts, it'll add that back in. And then the thing I like most about this option is it adds a little comment to that checklist in your eBird checklist so that you can tell that you've imported already to the Atlas. So if I go back, I'll show you what I mean. If you go back to the checklist, let's go to that July 9th checklist that we submitted. And now, right down here, it says nature counts right below the map, right in the comments section. So I know I've already imported this checklist. If I go and check out an older checklist, this one, see there's no nature counts there, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. So none of these have been imported yet to nature counts. So I know that I need to enter those still. So I'm going to do this one next because I want to show you one more thing before we move on. So I'm going to copy this. And before I enter that checklist, I forgot to mention one little thing on the profile page. Very, very important. If you toggle this to no, has not updated yet. If you say no and then hit save changes, it's not going to do it. You have to use this update button within the eBird export section of the profile page. This is so completely sort of separate from the rest of your profile information. So if you if you change your eBird password and you need to come updated in nature counts, you do it here, and then you need to make sure you remember to hit the update button here, not the save changes button down here. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I told you guys that. Okay, so let's go back and try to enter that last eBird checklist. So we're going to hit submit data. Well, I've been signed out. I was quiet in this account for too long. So let's sign in. Okay, we're going to hit import from eBird, paste that eBird checklist ID, import it, and okay, so it is giving me a little sort of warning up here. Note your form contains one or more rare species or high counts for this date and location, so please review your list and ensure that you provide sufficient details in the comments. So this is just a quick reminder to make sure you review the data. So we've got our location is correct, location name, date, time is all correct. It was a stationary checklist. Yeah. So there's no distance, one observer, complete checklist. Okay, that's all correct. And then on our bird list, let's see, only species with data. Okay, what do we got here? So we've got a flag here. We've got this flag here for northern house wren. It says it's rare. It's a rare species. So we want to make sure we add some details like Kaylin showed you. So click add details and look at that. It's already there because I added notes in the eBird checklist as well. So it's singing in recently cleared area and there's an audio recording made. I've put that in the eBird checklist. Maybe I'll just edit this, say eBird audio recording made and uploaded to eBird checklist. Okay, close that, submit. And yes, I want to confirm that that was not a data entry error. I did mean to enter Northern House Wren. Hit submit. And there we go. Now, if I go back to that eBird checklist, here's a link right here. It should now have, yeah, it's got nature counts and it has now updated the notes. So it says uploaded to eBird checklist and there's the audio recording. Okay, so that's it for importing in checklists from eBird. It's pretty straightforward and you get really fast at it the more you do. So I think we've got a few frequently asked questions we're going to go through. So I'm going to throw things back over to Kaylin and then we'll have time for some questions.
Excellent. Yeah. I noticed there haven't been any questions yet in the Q&A or on Facebook. So just a reminder to post those. We still have a few moments where we're going to go through frequently asked questions. So that's a good opportunity for you to get your typing fingers warmed up and be posted in the Q&A. All right. So just a reminder, our YouTube channel, ON Bird Atlas, you can either go to YouTube and then in the search, type in Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas, or here's the direct link. It's youtube.com/@ONBirdAtlas. We have all of the data entry videos on there as well as past Sappy hours. So definitely a great resource. I know that these can go by pretty quickly. So at least with those videos, you can pause, rewind them, try to get a sense of what we're talking about if you want to do it while you're also doing your data entry. All right. So Mike covered this one, but why won't my eBird checklist import? And it will show an error, of course, if you cross a square boundary on your list. Obviously, this one is a huge, a huge track that covers several squares here. So just be mindful of that. Why won't checklists get sent to eBird? So Mike went over having to press that update button. But a second reason why your checklist won't get sent to your eBird is if you recently changed your eBird password, you also need to change your eBird password on your nature counts profile and then press that update button. So be aware of that. If everything looks okay, say it looks like this in your profile on nature counts, it has your name and supposedly your password, it's likely that you've changed your password and that you just need to update that. So just be aware. All right, what happens if you notice a mistake you've made or you press submit and then you're like, oh shoot, I didn't actually mean to do that, or one of the data reviewers reaches out and asks for more info. You can always go to this My Data tab and then press View Data Forms, and that'll show you all your data forms, and you can press this Modify button, the little pencil and paper. So you can always go back in and make any changes after the fact, and as Mike said, those updates will also be pushed to eBird. All right, why won't Nature Count submit your checklist? Not necessarily from eBird, but just generally speaking. Nature Counts will show an error and prevent you from submitting checklists if you don't have the required info. So if the date is wrong, you might have a date in the future by accident. If you don't have a time or duration, or you've accidentally messed up that time thing, you try to highlight everything to delete it, but you actually end up with, hundreds of minutes. The location could be incorrect, so could cross square boundaries, might not necessarily be in Ontario, etc. The distance might have some errors, or you might be lacking some details for flagged species or records. So anything that is absolutely, required for that sort of submission. All right, why won't Nature Count submit my checklist? So here's a pretty common error that a lot of people get confused by, which is completely valid, is this error that says 1 is smaller than 3. And people are not really sure what that means. Well, I mean, it's true, but why is it telling you that? And the reason is you've likely pinned more individuals than what you've recorded here. So on this page, it says 1 is smaller than 3. And you have 1 here, and you say, okay, it is smaller than 3, but where's the 3 come in? And it's actually that you have 3 pinned individuals here. So here's my 3 mute swans that I've pinned in that square 17TPH04. And so you'll have to go down and delete those pins, and either delete the pins or increase your number of individuals so that they match up. You can have, say, like 3 individuals and just 1 pin. Maybe all 3 individuals are at the same pin, but it can't be the reverse order where you have more pins than individuals. So again, be aware of that. And if you run into that error, you'll now know what that means. All right, well, this is the announcement slide. We were going to do it after questions. We might as well do it now. The August challenge is to submit a peak season checklist. So make sure you get your data in by the data entry deadline, and you'll be submitted for a chance to win a pair of Vortex binoculars. And then again, the data entry deadline for peak season data or any data collected before that is August 30th. And then for non-peak season data, it'll be by the end of the year. All right, that was a quick one. Really sped through it to try to get to some folks' questions. So hopefully we got some good ones. I'm looking forward to hearing them.
Yeah, so it looks like we've got one question currently. If you guys think of any more, please feel free to type them in the chat or in the Q&A. But our current question, if you report a fledgling, should you also report the number of adults seen?
Yeah, good question. Yes. If you're doing a complete checklist, you're answering the yes to the question of are you reporting all the birds you're able to identify, then you need to report all the birds. And that means you need the number of individuals for each species. And kind of related to this, that includes nestlings too. So that throws people off sometimes. So if it's a bird that is outside of an egg and it is alive, then it should be counted on a complete checklist.
I don't see any more questions just yet, so I might take this opportunity to show people how to delete those pins. I said what the issue was and that you need to delete them, but it might not necessarily be intuitive. So tried to recreate that slide here. This is the 1 is smaller than 3 issue with the mute swans. So I have 1, 2, 3 mute swans. We have 1, 2, 3 latlons here reported. So if you click on them, it will highlight which one it is. So if I click on this furthest one, there's a bit of a pink tinge to this number 4 here. Say there's not a mute swan there, I'll just press delete here. And then if you're not sure which these are, that's highlighting number 2 once I've clicked on it. And this is highlighting number 3. So I can just go ahead and delete that number 3. And that will just leave me with the 1 mute swan, and 1 is equal to 1. So I think we'll be good to go after that. I don't see any questions on Facebook. Mike, oh, I've got one in the comments here.
Oh yeah, so this is a good question from Wallace Rendell. Um, is yeah, if you've maybe submitted a checklist that has a species on it, but it's still not showing up in the square summary, the most likely reason is because the data has not been reviewed. So those square summaries, they only get updated once the regional reviewer has done the data review, because we don't want to preemptively say, oh, okay, well, we've got, common gallinule in this particular square. And then when the reviewer gets to it, turns out, oh, that was actually a data entry error or it was an incorrect ID. So we want to have a little bit of data review on those flagged species before they get counted. The other possibility is perhaps you didn't have breeding evidence code added for that particular record. I suspect you did, but that has tripped some people up. If they forgot to put a breeding code, the square summary sheet only reflects the highest breeding evidence that's been reported. So, of course, if there's been no breeding evidence reported, it will have a blank. But most likely, it's just that the regional reviewer hasn't gotten to it. Which those are some pretty amazing and pretty busy volunteers, especially over the last few months. This is part of the reason we have this August 31st data entry deadline, is to get the data in so that people can start reviewing the data. Because it goes through a two-stage review. So the regional reviewers are going to do the data review this fall, and then it'll head to the provincial committee to do the secondary review over the winter. So that's one of the reasons we want that data entered so in such a timely way, so that we can get to the data review, which is not a small task.
Yeah, just to add to the square summary sheets and breeding evidence codes. Oh, if it's still missed, who do I contact? I would maybe reach out to your regional coordinator if possible, and see, if there's maybe just something in the queue. But I would maybe wait until the end of the year once they've had the opportunity to do that review. And in terms of square summary sheets, there is also, the order of confirmation, I guess, of breeding evidence. So, there is observed, possible, probable, and confirmed. But within each of those levels, they go by kind of increasing confirmation. So if you see your square summary sheet, and for example, in my square, there's yellow warbler nest with young. That is the current highest breeding evidence. And so say I saw fledged young and I added fledged young, the square summary sheet would not change to fledged young because fledged young is actually lower confirmation than nest with young. So there have been some folks who check the square summary sheets and are not sure why their code is not showing, and it's just the level of confirmation. So if you look at that breeding evidence codes page, that I was showing before, it does show from lowest to highest breeding evidence. And I'll post that in the chat again here. And so you'll have a better idea of kind of where yours lands in terms of the confirmation level. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's just giving a little more details on that particular record. Yeah, Wallace, you'll need to reach out to your regional coordinator. If it's a record from this year, then almost certainly it just hasn't been reviewed yet. But some of the records, even from previous years, are still sitting waiting for that review if they didn't quite get to them over the last year or two. Obviously, we definitely have to get to them this round. But yeah, it's easier to reach out to your RC and see if the record's still sitting in the queue. But as Kaylin said, it'd be nice for the RC to, if you don't, everybody doesn't rush to them to ask why this particular record isn't showing up, unless if it's a couple of years old, then maybe do that now. But I'd give them a month or two into the fall before you start bugging them with those questions.
All right, so we've got one more question in the Q&A. If question is, if automatically sending nature counts to eBird, will sensitive species be flagged for location?
Good question. So It depends. It depends if it's a sensitive species or not. And we have a set of rules that we use for the atlas, where we have certain species are considered sensitive. We developed those rules and we tried for the most part to sync those up with eBird. So it's pretty much the same list of species between the atlas and eBird in Ontario. But I'm not 100% whether or not there are some discrepancies. I think there are a couple. I think there's more species listed as sensitive species within the atlas than eBird. So um, it really just depends on the platform's rules. We control what's happening with the atlas stuff. We're not also the eBird. We don't run eBird, so we don't have 100% control over that. So it would depend on the species, but if that record falls within the rules of whatever is sensitive within eBird, then yes, it would get whatever eBird protection rules would apply to that particular record.
Right. I'm not seeing anything else on Facebook, and we can give people a moment for the Q&A, but it might take folks a little bit to, get their feet under them in terms of trying to enter the data now that they have absorbed all of this info. Again, don't forget to check out the YouTube if you really want to pause things as you're going through your own data, and try to do things step by step with any of our tutorials. And again, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to your regional coordinator. And if all else fails, there's also the Atlas discussion forum, and where a lot of folks have answered questions about how to enter data. Mike has added the link to our discussion forum in the chat here, which is awesome. There's a lot of really great atlasers who have been, contributing to that and answering people's questions on there as well. Questions? Okay, we'll let you get on with your evening, everyone. But thanks so much for joining us. Thanks again, Megan, for emceeing for us. And obviously, thanks, Mike. We work together all the time. But everyone have a great night, and we'll chat again soon.
All right,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.